All right, Cam Johnson.
Sign and trade. What's the most we're willing to give up?
Marvin Bagley, Killian Hayes, and a couple seconds.
Chris, actually, didn't you have a theory on this?
I do have a theory on this. I have a theory on how the Pistons can get Cam Johnson and get him pretty easily. So I was looking at the numbers because I know Brooklyn is obviously a team in cap space. You know, they're in trouble. They are $33 million away from the second apron. That second apron that I tell you about that does all the things where you can't use this exception, that exception, you lose your draft picks, all that stuff. So Brooklyn is close to that. They're $33 million with multiple players to re-sign, Cam Johnson being one of them. And we've heard of these poison pill contracts. Why doesn't Detroit front load the contract? Offer Cam Johnson a contract, same amount, 100 or 105 million, whatever per year. Break it down where the final year would be like probably 28, 29 million, and the Pistons have 28 million in cap space. Start it off with 28, and that way the cap is going up, Cam Johnson's contract's going down, so it'll become a more valuable contract at the end, and you have your Pistons young core on a rookie scale contract. Pretty much all of them, Cade, Ivy, Duren, everybody that's important is on rookie scale contracts right now. So if you're the Pistons, you could screw the Nets and force them in a position where they don't want to match that offer because they don't want to pay that second apron for a team that's not even going to be good. Let's be real. That team wasn't a playoff team. They were a playoff team because Kevin Durant was there for the first half of the season. So that's a way you can totally screw Brooklyn. And I think it's a smart way because you look at the Keldon Johnson contract San Antonio did. $20 million first year, and then it goes down to 17.5. And it's just the cap is going up. Like, it's such a valuable thing. I don't understand why the Pistons wouldn't do that for not just Cam Johnson, but whoever they sign in free agency. Take advantage of the rookie roster cap space now. And then when you have to pay Cade, pay Ivy, pay Duren, you know, that contract is a lot lesser and easier to trade, worst case scenario, if it's not a good player.
Yeah, I like that idea. You see that happening a lot in the NFL where they're front-loading or back-loading contracts based on what they have on their roster, what they got to pay salary-wise right now. So if that is what they do with Cam Johnson, I'm cool with it. I'm happy with it. Yeah, please front-load Cam Johnson's contract so that when you eventually have to pay Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey and these guys, he's looking at less of a cap hit and you can fit them all.
Has there been any like actual like news outlets report that Brooklyn's willing to match that, you know, $100+ million offer from Detroit?
People that are plugged in, like Howard Beck, who I think doesn't currently cover the Brooklyn Nets, but is very tapped in with the Nets, used to cover the Brooklyn Nets. He said on the Low Post today that he expects Brooklyn to match anything, but that was right before the Detroit news broke. So, and they were saying under $100 million. So I don't think it's up in the air right now as far as if Brooklyn will match or not. Brooklyn definitely wants to keep Cam Johnson, but
why
I
do you
think
say
if
that,
the Pistons.
Like, is there reports that they want to keep them, or like you're just assuming?
No, yeah, they want to keep him. That was what he was saying. He was saying, you know, the Brooklyn Nets will bring back Cam and they'll match probably almost any offer. I can't see him getting more than $100 million. That's what Howard Beck was saying. So the Pistons report saying that they could go $100 million or maybe even slightly more than that kind of inclines that if that's the breaking point, Pistons are kind of forcing Brooklyn to, you know, call their bluff essentially.
Yeah,
1-800 call my bluff.
That's what it comes down
Great
to.
song.
That's a fantastic song.
It is calling the bluff. I mean, I feel like that's part of the only reason they did the extended the qualifying offer on him is because like I think this really might end up in a sign and trade scenario where they get something back for him. And I'm not mad at them for doing so, but like I can't really see them. I mean, I guess they do have a fuck ton of draft picks. Like they would be taking on like rookie deals in a situation where they do pay Cam Johnson. So maybe it's not so much a bluff. Maybe they are willing to pay this guy. And maybe it is structured somewhat how Chris is talking about, where you front load it. I've always been a big fan of that. I don't know why that's not done more often. It makes no sense. The teams like fuck themselves down the road by not doing so.
Yeah, because then the final year of the contract is when this guy, like if you overpay for a player, which restricted free agency often is, you have to overpay to get the guy. The highest years of his salary are the last years of his contract. So then you're looking at a situation where it's an overpay and it's the highest number of that player's contract. So it's always tough to trade the last year or two. So I don't see why you don't just front load it, especially again in Brooklyn's case. I mean, they're $55 million over the cap right now. Like no matter
They're over the
what
cap
they
right
do.
now.
Yes. Like
I thought you said that $30 million to play.
Yeah.
With.
Yeah, well, from the second apron, the one that freezes you of everything. Like, they're over the actual salary cap, the normal salary cap.
Yeah.
But the second apron of luxury tax and all that, they're close to that. They're flirting with that. And they got people to re-sign, like Cam Johnson, like Seth Curry, all of that. Because Brooklyn doesn't want to be bad. They don't own their draft picks. So they want to re-sign these players. So they're kind of in a tough scenario where they kind of have to pay these players whatever.
Yeah, they need to build a team around Mikal Bridges is what they're looking to build around. And obviously Cam Johnson would be a coveted piece anywhere he goes. So Brooklyn's going to want to keep him, but they're not going to be able to afford to pay him more than the Pistons. So I think you go out there and you make him choke on an offer sheet if you really want to.
So because you're the Pistons, you have to overpay for this guy.
Yeah. You're going to have to overpay for anybody if you're the Pistons.
No, for sure.
But especially the restricted free agent.
But the restricted free agent, yeah, because you're essentially outbidding another team. If this thing goes over, I expect this to go at 27.
Yeah.
Damn, Madonna's in the hospital, I guess.
If it reaches 30, are we?
Well, the Pistons
think
can't really do that. The max cap space they can make is like $30.1 million.
Yeah.
Because they've already accepted some offers on Livers. They obviously
Alec
the Burks
Burks.
news. Yeah. So their projected cap space right now is 27.9 or 28.1, something like
But
that.
that's within the cap. Like you could still go over that and still be underneath the apron.
Well, not
correct?
to sign somebody you don't own bird rights to, and they don't own the bird rights to Cam Johnson. You could sign over that cap. You go over that cap to re-sign some other players.
Well, that's why it'd be
you
the
own.
sign and trade.
Yeah, which is why it would.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to do that. But in a sign and trade scenario, to go back to that, I still think it's minimal. Because you look at sign and trades, you're not getting the value of the player in that sign and trade. You're just getting a little something like a conditional second or something like that in Cam Johnson's case.
Yeah.
A player of Cam Johnson's caliber hasn't really been sign and trade. Like, that's a low caliber player for a sign and trade. You look at the sign and trades that have happened. It's Kevin Durant to Golden State, which included D'Angelo Russell. Like, it's those kind of players getting signed and traded more so than a Cam Johnson level player.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't really you wouldn't have to give up anything of real value. No first, not even Killian Hayes would have to be in the deal unless Detroit wanted him to be in the deal.
I would want to get rid of Marvin Bagley.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So.
I'm looking at that contract so bad.
Yeah.
I'm looking to Plumlee was a sign and trade. Muscala was a sign and trade. Let's look at past sign and trades. Look at the give up was for.
That's true, Easy. There are some like minimal ones, but like what's the return of those?
So
Nothing more than second rounds.
So outside
right?
of obviously Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Actually, these are just trades. I'm looking for specifically for sign trades, but
because I don't remember a Mike Scala sign and trade. Maybe
Mason Plumlee was
sign
Reggie
and trade.
Jackson in a second round pick. I'd say Cam Johnson's probably better than Mason Plumlee, obviously.
Yeah.
Mason Plumlee got traded in the middle of the season, though.
Yeah, Cam Reddish.
But also,
So I
again,
don't think it
Easy,
was a
you got to
sign and trade.
understand that Pistons kind of have leverage here, even though they're the team signing them, because at the end of the day, they can call Brooklyn's bluff and be like, all right, you want to pay him this money? Go ahead. Match that offer.
Yeah.
Match that offer. You're screwed.
If you had to put money on it, do you think he becomes a Detroit Piston?
Yes.
I'm kind of nervous now. I mean, they can afford to pay him this money. I'm talking about Brooklyn. And they can afford it longevity-wise, too, because anything coming into this team is going to be a rookie deal based off of the amount of draft picks they acquired for making the KD deal. I don't know, bro. I don't know if he becomes a Piston. I'm not as confident as I once was. I still want it to happen.
Yeah.
I feel like, honestly, more than any other. When we discussed that last Friday in terms of, like, Jeremy Grant versus Cam. No, you ain't looking too hot, dog. Kind of fucking sucks.
I
It
will
does
say another thing to point to maybe it not happening is that today the Pistons have been linked to guys like Max Strus and all of those, and so I like Max Strus. I mean, that's fine if he's at a decent price, but at the end of the day, Cam Johnson is going to take probably all of your cap space. So if the Pistons are linked to any free agents other than Cam Johnson, then it means that maybe they're preparing for a scenario in which they don't get Cam Johnson.
Yeah.
And maybe that $100 million was just to kind of see if Brooklyn's willing to match it. And maybe Brooklyn's willing to match it. So Detroit's like, all right, we don't even have to put offer in. But I think Cam Johnson has a real good chance of becoming a Piston.
I think it's definitely between the Pistons and Brooklyn, obviously. But fuck, man, it's tough.
You're nervous?
Yeah, I am, because he feels like the perfect missing piece, and whether he becomes a Detroit Piston or not, this is why I look at it. Either he's not going to become a Detroit Piston because they're not going to. It's either you're overpaying the fuck out of him, grossly overpaying him because of the restricted free agent situation, or you don't get him.
I mean, Tom Gore's already overpaid once with, Monty Williams.
Yeah.
He wants to produce a winner really bad. I don't think he would be crazy to think that he overpays and offers $110 million.
The difference is, though, with Monty, that overpayment doesn't count towards your cap space.
Yeah.
With the situation with Cam Johnson, it kind of does.
But, not that much of a difference.
I mean, 30 M's. That's a lot.
You think he'd get 30?
I don't think so. I don't think he's getting close to 30. I think the closest he gets is 27, 28, and that's like the final year, the peak of the deal. Like, I think it's going to be around 100 to maybe at max like 105. I don't think he gets more than 110. But I still love the idea of the Pistons front loading it and really just putting Brooklyn in a tough position. And just front loading it in general, just so that the Pistons again, have more cap flexibility in the future. Because what's an extra $3 million if you get him now for 25 and he's 28 in the final year of his deal? What's that extra $3 million doing for you this year? You might as well do it the other way, and that'll factor in with Cade's contract, Ivy's contract, all of that.
This is from Mark Sankoff from Detroit Free Press, Detroit Pistons beat writer. Says Brooklyn has every incentive to bring Johnson back next season. The Pistons have to consider if it's worthwhile to pay up to $30 million a year for players who had some durability issues, including missing 40 games last season due to a torn meniscus, and would likely profile as a third or fourth option offensively. I think it could get as high as 30, only because how many times have we said in your lifetime, almost any sport, there's no way this guy gets this X amount of money.
Yeah.
True.
And then that guy gets
Especially
that more.
in the NBA.
Especially in the NBA.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was Tyler Johnson we talked about last Friday.
Yeah, Tyler Johnson got fucking paid.
Fleeced the Heat.
So did Duncan Robinson.
Duncan Robinson fleeced the Heat. Like, those are two contracts that made absolutely no sense, and this is a fit, a player that makes sense. I can see him getting upwards of $30 million. Would you be pissed about it?
Not really.
Chris?
30, I'd probably pass on Cam, and I'd break it up and go for like the Grant Williams, Kelly Oubre, Max Strus, like kind of get a combination of two of those. I think that would be fine. But either way, I want the Pistons to front load the contracts. Like, I'm just so sold on that idea when I was thinking of it for Cam.
Yeah.
I think they should just do it in general.
But if it happens at the 30, are you on Troy Weaver's head about it?
I'm not on his head about it. I'm just not as thrilled about it because, at the end of the day, he is a fourth option. Maybe third option this year as the other players grow, but realistically going forth, he's like the fourth most important player on the Pistons, maybe even fifth, depending on the star.